hanging over the table. Razor-sharp cheekbones should have made his face seem harsh, but instead all those unforgiving angles were set against a downright sinful-looking mouth that made her heart pound a little faster. Being trapped in the hold of those stormy eyes didn't help. Even though Leni, with her brown hair and freckled, spattered cheeks, had never been as pretty as her blonde, blue-eyed older sister Shannon, she still got her fair share of second glances from men, both the locals and the ones just passing through. But this man studied her with an intensity that surpassed clumsy come-ons or garden-variety ogling. He looked at her as if he could see inside her with a glance. His gaze moved slowly over every feature of her face, from her hazel eyes and slightly upturned nose to her mouth, which suddenly felt as dry as cotton. Then his gaze drifted lower, settling at her throat and sending her already drumming pulse into a gallop. It should have unnerved her, the way he radiated dark power and a palpable yet unspoken command. In a corner of her consciousness she was a little rattled, because it damn sure wasn't her nature to check her good sense into her panties every time a good-looking man came into the diner, which, to be honest, wasn't that often, as in never, and this man was unearthly handsome. God, what was wrong with her? Leni picked up the half-filled mug he wouldn't be using and rallied her focus. "All right, then. Nothing to drink. So what else can I get you? I've got one serving left of my grandma's famous pot roast, and I guarantee you've never tasted anything like it." The dark slashes of his brows furrowed a little over his unsettlingly intense eyes, even while the corner of his mouth quirked with wry amusement. "No pot roast for me." "You sure? If you're thinking about heading for one of the mills near Jackman or St. Zachary at the Quebec border, you'll need something that sticks to your ribs. You're looking at 100 miles of dicey driving ahead of you." She gestured with her chin to the blizzard howling against the window. "What might take you 4 hours plus in good weather will mean double or triple that time tonight, if you make it at all." He grunted in response. "I'll take it under advisement." She tilted her head, studying him now. He wasn't heading to either of those places. In fact, she didn't think he was a logger or a trucker after all. Working the diner for half of her 27 years, first at her mom and grand's side, then on her own, once both of them had passed, Leni had developed something of a sixth sense when it came to the types of strangers who passed through Parrish Falls on their way to somewhere else. But her first impression about this man had been all wrong. He was unlike anyone she'd encountered before, and not only because of his soul-searching eyes and impossibly handsome face. Something about him had tripped a lot of switches inside her, including a few she didn't want to acknowledge. When he took off his gloves and she spotted the unusual markings on the back of his strong hands, she understood why. Holy shit. He was breed. Those tangled flourishes and swirls in a shade or two darker than his golden skin didn't occur in humans. They were otherworldly markings, dermaglyphs, that only appeared on the blood-drinking cohabitants of this planet who had lived in secret alongside mankind until about 20 years ago. Leni had never seen one of his kind in person before, but she knew about the breed. She knew enough to realize that the sheer size of him and the density and complexity of the glyphs tracking over his large hands and wrists meant the rest of him was sure to be covered in them too, which meant this male had to be almost pure-blooded, one of the most powerful, most lethal of his race. He retrieved some folded money from the inside pocket of his parka and peeled off a 20. "I won't stay long," he said, pushing the bill to the edge of the metal-rimmed laminate table. "I just needed to get out of the cold for a while." Leni stared into those turbulent blue eyes, astonished, not only because she was having a conversation with a vampire in her diner, but because aside from the fact that he could take whatever he wanted from anyone he pleased, including their lives, he was sitting there offering to pay for a few minutes of kindness and consideration. She shook her head. "Keep your money. Stay as long as you like." As she spoke, the low diesel growl of an